What's going on? James, not freebie, in a sunny, very low wind, beautiful day, really, when it comes down to it. And I'm here for, of course, another week of college football reviews. Last week we had a pretty solid week, but this week, week 5 is when you start to really see some of the things that you've started to see from some of these teams come together, and you start to see other teams just fall apart at the seams. Today was no different, but there was a lot of very fun games this last weekend, and it all started with Thursday. Actually, it all started with Friday, but Thursday was our header. So for this week, we had a pretty good point spread, a -60. First time in a while. I think it's been 2 or 3 weeks since it's been negative, which means in this regard, the away has scored more. There you go. You got that, bud. The away has scored more than the home side by an average of 4.3 points per game. So there wasn't a whole ton of blowouts. There was not a shutout like last week. And pretty much everyone got their shots in to an extent, given the score. If I were to name any specific one to probably stand out, it would probably be the Memphis FAU game. That one got a little bit out of control at the end. And then the ECU Army game, which is an ironic twist of where we're going, because that's the first game we're going to be covering. Interesting. Army, now 1-3 on the year, went to East Carolina and really showed up and got taken care of within the first fucking quarter. Within the first quarter. 3-2 now, East Carolina sits. And like I said, first quarter they came out and Army looked like they didn't know what a football was, and that the service academies are just there so they could keep moving people through the officer ranks and having bunches of officers. Blah, 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 yada, yada, yada. Honestly, the pity touchdown at the end of the fourth, after 2 field goals by Army in the third, it almost felt like it was just just in case Army decides to score 14 points. But Army wasn't going to score anything. The triple option was definitely not humming the way that normally you would see it. Eastern Carolina, Caden Hauser, 15-22, 251 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception. On the ground, London Montgomery, 15 rushes, 58 yards. Marlon Gunn, 10 rushes, 53 yards. And Parker Jenkins, 1 rush, 32 yards, and a touchdown. Through the air, Anthony Smith, 3 receptions, 87 yards, and a touchdown. Yannick Smith, 3 receptions, 56 yards. Brock Spalding, 3 receptions, 35 yards. And Jordan Connor, 2 receptions, 31 yards, and a touchdown. On Army side, Dwayne Coleman, 5-9, 36 yards. And Cale Helms, 1 for 3 and 13 yards. Yes, you could tell that their passing game was on fire. Noah Short, 11 rushes, 127 yards. And Dwayne Coleman, 23 rushes, 52 yards, and a touchdown. Helms had 8 rushes and 41 yards. Through the air, Nimrod, Samari Nimrod, 2 receptions, 26 yards. Noah Short, 3 receptions, 13 yards, and Parker Poloski, 1 reception, 10 yards. So that was pretty much that. I feel like, unlike last year, Army is back to right exactly where we expect them to be. There are triple options working like last week. Rice had it dialed up against Charlotte, and Navy the week before last up against Tulsa. Obviously the triple option works, but if you have nothing else to do, it's going to be either a long game or a game that embarrasses the hell out of the other team. Next game, the actual best game of the weekend, hands down. I don't care what anybody says about Penn State, Oregon. That game wasn't even as close to as fun as this game was. Florida State, now 3-1 against a now 4-1 Virginia. Double overtime, 46 Virginia, 38 Florida State. Yeah, you heard that right. Florida State got done in by a competitor. Somebody really wanting to play ball, as they say in the game. And Virginia was not going to sit there and let them have their cake. And definitely not going to let them eat it too. Because certainly if this were that case, the cake would have already been thrown in the gutter and smashed. Because Florida State does not know how to keep nice things nice. Chandler Morris for Virginia. 26-35. 292 yards, 3 touchdowns. On the ground, 8 rushes, 37 yards, and 3 touchdowns. So pretty good day for him. Jamari Taylor on the ground, 27-99 with a touchdown. Xavier Brown, 9-60. And 1 catch for 15 yards and a touchdown on the air. You got that? Jamal Ederin, 3 for 45. Terrell Davis, 3 for 45. And this is all through the air. Cam Ross, 5 for 34. Dakota Twitty, 5 for 29. Eli Wood, 2 for 29. And Sage Ennis, 1 catch for 6 yards and a touchdown. Now we look at Florida State. Now, the real gamer here, regardless of what the situation was, would be Tommy Castellanos, the quarterback. 18-32, 254 yards, a touchdown, a touchdown and interception. 14 carries, 78 yards, and a touchdown. Former Oklahoma transfer, Gavin Sawchuk, 17 carries, 74 yards and a touchdown. And Osman Croman, I probably got that right. Man, my pen was fucking up here. 12 carries, 65 yards. Through the air, Deuce Robinson, 9 catches, 147 yards, and a touchdown. Lawayne McCoy, 2 receptions, 44 yards. Makai Danzy, 3 receptions, 42 yards. Randy Pittman, actually player of the game, regardless, because he had the trifecta. He was 2 receptions, 16 yards, and a touchdown. And he also had 1 carry for 2 yards and a touchdown. And he also passed 1 time for 1 yard and a touchdown. So he got the trifecta. 3 touchdowns in 3 different ways. Something that doesn't happen that often and definitely should get recognized every single time it does, because it takes a special level of talent to be able to throw, pass, and rush. And be able to be given the opportunity to be doing as such. So that was the double overtime game. We slide. I feel like this. Whoa. We slide right into Arizona State and TCU. Arizona State walking out with a 3-point victory. Almost went into overtime. Walk-off field goal. 27-24. Arizona State is now 4-1. TCU is now falls down to 3-1. Sam Levitt on Arizona State. 27-39, 291 yards and 2 touchdowns. 13 carries, 62 yards and a touchdown. Rayleigh Brown, 22 carries, 147 yards. In the air, Jordan Tyson, 8 receptions, 127 yards. Rayleigh Brown, 9 receptions, 50 yards. Jaron Hamilton, 1 reception, 4 yards and a touchdown. And Jamon Mateer, 4 receptions, 25 yards. On the other side, a TCU team which had been rolling since they really, their offense had been rolling since week 1 against UNC, going to UNC, and really been doing business ever since then. This was the first time where they've looked somewhat mortal, and it really was down to the fact that a defense decided to play a little bit on them, and it just kind of threw them out of the groove. Josh Hoover, 20-32, 242 yards and 2 interceptions, but he did have a rushing touchdown. I'm not going to say yards because it really wasn't all that much. Actually, I think it was one of those situations where he taken so much sacks that it was negative, so it showed up as negative, but he still had a rushing touchdown from probably a sneak or something like that. Trent Battle on the ground, 9 for 30 and a touchdown. Jeremy Payne, 6 for 20 and a touchdown. In the air, Joseph Manjack, the 4th, 6 receptions, 83 yards. DJ Rogers, 4 receptions, 60 yards. Jordan Dwyer, 3 receptions, 42 yards. And Chase Curtis, 1 reception, 21 yards. That game, and this is where what I was saying. This was a very great way to start out a week of college football. when you get these kind of games, I will even waive the East Carolina Army game because, let's be real, that wasn't as hyped. These last two games really get you hyped for this week. And this third game did nothing less. An overtime game with Houston, now 4-0, beating Oregon State, now 0-5. 27-24 in overtime, like I said. Let me put it like this. I'm going to be completely honest. I really felt like Oregon State had a chance. Houston had not been playing great, and losing to Colorado, or winning against Colorado, definitely did not sit here and give me a ton of confidence that they really could do what they needed to do for the next steps of the season. Well, they went to Oregon State and squeezed one out. A defensive battle. On Oregon State's side, Malik Murphy, 20 of 33, 200 yards, or 201 yards and a touchdown. Through the ground, Richie, I don't think I grabbed his last name. He did get a touchdown. That's Cornell Hatcher Jr., 17 for 93 and a touchdown, and Anthony Henderson, 23 for 74. Trent Walker, 7 catches for 103 yards. Bryce Caulfield, 4 receptions for 48 yards. Taz Reddick's 2 receptions, 17 yards, and Marquise Crosby, 2 receptions, 11 yards, and a touchdown. On the other side, Houston, Connor Wegman, 20 for 36, 270 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception, and a rushing touchdown to add on. Dean Connors on the ground, 17 for 53. Amare Thomas, 6 receptions, 104 yards. Tanner Koziel, 6 receptions, 86 yards, and a touchdown. And Stephon Johnson, 2 receptions, 44 yards, and a touchdown. Dean Connors also had 4 receptions for 33 yards. Like I said, it was one that Houston probably should never have gone into overtime with, but at the same time, it was a very, very good game, and Oregon State really wanted to win. They aren't going to really be competing for a ton of those. You can see the juxtaposition to where they are in this season. Oregon State's just kind of lost with the 2-team Pac-12. I mean, yes, it's going to be the Mountain West Light next year, but I don't know. I'm not. Oregon State's really got to take a step up and at least try and win one of these games, because if they end up 0-12, man, I cannot. That would be shocking. They're not the team that you would assume to go 0-12, especially with how hard they're playing. I'll see you in the part 2 as we continue this weekend and get into Saturday's action.